So, time for us to get into a very, very important conversation. Now, she's been called one of Africa's most respected education leaders, a chemist turned scholar, an academic turned entrepreneur, and a dreamer who builds institutions from scratch. So, this morning, Women Mean Business features Professor Goski Alabi, co-founder and acting vice chancellor of Accra Metropolitan University. Her mission? To open the gates of learning wider than ever before. Professor, it's an honor to have you in our studio this morning.
The pleasure is mine.
Let's start from the beginning. So, what was young Goski like? And did she ever imagine this path in leadership and academia?
I presume so. I believe it doesn't always end up being exactly where we expect it to be, but somehow, in my case, it's within the framework of what my parents designed for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Share more of that with us. Were you the careful or precocious child growing up?
Well, growing up, my parents had 4 girls and 1 boy.
Oh, right.
But the boy came much later. And so my father was very particular about bringing up 4 young ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall that whenever he calls us, for example, he calls me, Goski. And when I'm coming towards him, he says, come and walk like a soldier.
Was he a soldier himself?
He wasn't a soldier.
Okay.
My father was a civil engineer.
Right.
But, as tradition would have it, as young as 13, he started training us how to shoot. Yes, we were all, 4 girls. And so
learning how to shoot rifles.
Learning how to shoot.
Wow.
So he calls you and he says, come and walk like a soldier. And you start, trotting on your toes, kind of. So, yeah. And when I was 9, my father gave me a book. No, he gave me several books before I was 9, actually. I read a lot of books from Norman Vincent Peale.
Mm-hmm. Positive thinking.
Yeah, positive thinking and all of that. When our friends were reading like Mills and Boons, we were reading, Norman Peale and the like. So when I was 9, he gave me an article on Margaret Thatcher. And this was in 1979. And I read that Margaret Thatcher did chemistry and then went on to do law. And so all my dream was to do chemistry in the university. It didn't matter where it was going to take me. But I just wanted to do chemistry too. And afterwards do, law.
Wow.
Just like Margaret Thatcher. Yes, so I had a dream since I was 9 years, because that's the kind of design my father had for us, my parents in general, my mom too as well.
Great stuff. Now, here you are today in academia, making great strides. But how has your background in science sort of shaped your vision for education and leadership?
Yeah. I think that education is great. It kind of shapes not only development, but the individual, your own empowerment, your own self-awareness, your own confidence to contribute, to societal development. And it is very clear, because when I look back and I look at those many of the people that I grew up with, because I had a checkered, background growing up. I spent a lot of, not so much time, but quite a few years with my grandparents in the heart of Nungwa.
Okay.
And, I went fetching water in the morning before going to school and, going round to sell like fruits like alasa, sugarcane, and all of that. So I was really very close to the people. And so when I look at growing up, those that I started school with, who some of them are and how they are contributing towards development, and those that really had formal education and took it to the higher level, you can see the difference. And that is where I felt that education is key to human development, to human welfare, to peace, to prosperity. And therefore, it is a right that should not be taken away from anyone.
You know, you mentioned how the article about Margaret Thatcher inspired you. And of course, she went on from being a chemist to be a barrister. Then she went into politics, was appointed Secretary of Education and Science, I think under Edward Heath at the time. And you similarly have found your way into academia. I mean, what are the values that ground your work, and how has that influenced you into co-founding the Accra Metropolitan University?
Service, responsibility, and excellence are my personal core values. And I think that I realize that as powerful as education is, it can be improved. Particularly being a chemist and learning chemistry in Ghana, I always give the example that I learned so much about basic saponification, making soap. And we were taught that you could make soap from banana leaves, cocoa pods, and all of that, when you ash them. But we were never able to make any proper soap in the lab. Never. We knew the theory. But the women in the communities are making proper potassium soap, the black soap, the powerful alata soap.
Yeah.
They know how to make it well and well. So for me, there is more that we can do to our education by adding practical skills and allowing people to learn not only in the artificial constructed classrooms, but in an open way that connects with society, with the people, and with the things that are around us. And this is where Professor Joshua Alabi and I felt that there was more going to happen to education in the coming years at the time than what we could see traditionally. And therefore, we thought that looking at the way that technology was going, we should establish the first open university in Ghana to open access to many people who otherwise would have missed out on higher education. And this was what pushed us into doing this.
Okay, so that's how you formed, you started the Lawe Open University College.
Absolutely.
But that's now evolved into Accra Metropolitan University. Okay.
And one of the things that really motivated us was the fact that we believed that secondary education is good and it is very powerful. But there is a transformative power about higher education that everyone should have access to. We believe that, truncating education at the secondary level only perpetuated semi-illiteracy in the sense, or sometimes unemployment, chronic unemployment, And we still believed that we shouldn't move people completely away from their environment to say, go in and box yourself for 4 years and study at a certain age, without being connected to the natural environment and what you're doing. And that is why we set off to establish the Open University in Ghana, which should allow people to marry work, social development with higher education.
Wow. Fantastic stuff. If you just joined us, it's 9:30 on the studio clock. You're listening to the Asaase Breakfast Show with me, the Rainmaker. And in our studio this morning for Women Mean Business is Professor Goski Alabi. She's the acting Vice Chancellor for Accra Metropolitan University. Your career has seen very instructive and seminal roles in the founding of two important organizations. These are groundbreaking institutions. I'm referring to the Drolo Center for Strategic Leadership and the Otumfuo Center for Traditional Leadership.
Yeah.
Now, I like the smile on your face when I finished mentioning these two. How important were these projects for you? And what do they represent looking back and where you are now and the aspiration you have for education or higher learning as a whole?
Thank you very much. We believe that people are learning machines. We should be learning. Lifelong learning should be the principle. And so we believed that when our traditional leaders could have some, deeper insights into areas like management, like governance, like the laws governing traditional leadership in Ghana, about land management, about records management, and all of that. Many of the conflicts that we see today could be mitigated. We believed at the time, we did a study which indicated that the mapping of communities was very blurry. And so people would use rivers, anthills, trees, and all that as demarcation. But over the years, when those, symbolic instruments are no longer there, like the anthill or the tree, then it becomes quite blurry, and then it leads to some kind of conflicts. We also believed that land is the most powerful resource that anyone can have, and that's why probably Asaase.
Yes.
Land is very powerful. And so how can our traditional leaders use this as equity when people come to invest so that they can actually benefit more economically for the development of the communities? We believe that our traditional leaders would be even more empowered, in addition to their traditional wisdom, to do more powerful things in positioning their communities globally if they had some, insights into the new tools and techniques for promoting their communities. So this was what moved us to kind of develop a proposal, which we then took. I developed the proposal, I shared with academic board management, and then the board, the council, they approved it and said, okay, so go work on it. So I recall that we had to go meet with Otumfuo and sell the idea to him. And thankfully, he bought into it and gave a seed money of 100,000 Ghana cedis at the time to establish the Otumfuo Center for Traditional Leadership. And I must say that many, many traditional leaders, including paramount chiefs and, presidents of regional house of chiefs, have participated in that 6 months to 1.5 years, but they come, 6 monthly, to do this kind of professional diploma course that I have described. And for me, that is a powerful contribution to lifelong learning. We also believe that the Drolo Center for Strategic Leadership was also going to shape, corporate and political leadership in a way that would make it more strategic beyond Ghana. And that was why we also went on at the time to establish the Driller Center for Strategic Leadership.
Fantastic stuff. I mean, it's quite impressive and heartwarming, hearing you talk about why you went into this. But it also demonstrates something you said earlier about service, responsibility, and excellence being the core values that drive you as a person. And it's very visible, evident in the things that you've done. But why was it important for you to, in addition to all the things that you had done before, co-found Ghana's first open university? What does its evolution into AMU mean for access to education?
Thank you very much. So Accra Metropolitan University, which we love to call Accra Met.
Accra Met, okay.
Accra Met or
I like
AMET.
that.
So Accra Met evolved, as you said, from Lawe Open University College, which is the first open university in Ghana and second in West Africa. At the time, the only open university in West Africa is the National Open University of Nigeria,
Right.
which was established by Obasanjo, and he himself was a participant. He got his degrees from
the Open University.
From the Open University, all the way to his doctorate, And so that shows the power of what open universities can do. They give opportunities to everyone, regardless of age, of background, of what you have in terms of academic qualifications or what you do not have. It is open. It is open for people who are desirous of attaining higher education and have the capabilities to do that. So basically, it opens access to regular people who want to proceed and for people who decided 10 years ago, 20 years ago that enough, I'm going to go to work. But now, having worked for some time, I want to come back to school. It is open because the entry requirements are not the same as the traditional route all over the world. And that is the concept. So by its nature, being open gives it that ability and potential to open access to people who may have missed out, Secondly, because it is flexible, it allows people to school either regularly or to combine work and social life with school. Thirdly, for ladies in particular, it allows them to combine family life, having babies, taking care of the household, and responding to other responsibilities as a family woman, as a spouse, and as a working woman. To combine that with education so that women are not left behind simply because they had to respond to a natural course of nature, giving birth, making human beings.
We've had two of your alumni in the studio a few weeks ago. And they were all part of GMB, Ghana's Most Beautiful NAS program. Your initiative with Nan, when we spoke to her, she mentioned you and was full of praise. What inspired the whole collaboration, and what change do you think it sparked beyond the two we had in the studio with us?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think that the inspiration is just as I have said. I have come across numerous women who would tell you that because of family life, they had to truncate their education. I've also come across a lot of young ladies who along the line, maybe secondary school, got pregnant. And because of that, their parents probably disowned them or got very angry with them and wouldn't support them to continue their education. And so, with the spirit and the principle of Accra Metropolitan University to enhance access and quality of education, particularly for women, we thought that we should give young ladies who may have found themselves in such situation the opportunity to kind of go back to school. And so along the line, I get a call from a young man called Gideon. Mm-hmm. And Gideon says, please, I'm coming to you with a lady who needs your support. And what was the support? They have come with a very tall budget and they needed the money. And I had to contribute to it that same day. So I asked Nadidi, what is your purpose for doing this? What is your project? And she told me that she wants to look at education. What about education are you interested in? And then she said to me that, well, when she wins, she would like to go donate textbooks and tables and things. Then I said to her, okay, now, I do not have the cash you are looking for to give to you, but I have something bigger than the cash. I have something with an enduring presence.
Sounds like silver and gold have I none, but in the name of Jesus, rise.
Yes. So I said to her, okay, so, I mean, this is the concept we have. It's more enduring than donating textbooks or, tables. Yeah. What about we look at giving young ladies, young women who are single mothers and are not schooling but have the background to continue the opportunity. So, we set up a kind of scholarship for them when you win. She jumped at it and said, wow, this is a brilliant idea. So I said, good, let's do it. Fortunately, she won. And the moment I heard that she had won, I called to congratulate her and to remind her and say, nah,
it's time for us to get to work.
It's time for us to get to work. So let's do it.
Yeah.
But I learned something very instructive in this process. So we designed the call and the concept of the scholarship, and we gave to Nadidi so that she and the GMB, outfit could promote it. And when it went to the GMB team, they got back to us and said, no, we should change the concept. It shouldn't be for single mothers. It should be open, general, so that anyone at all could apply. Anyway, it went forth and back, and we changed it a little, but we still stood on our grounds and made sure that it captured the spirit, because it is our scholarships, So we decide
how you want to administer it.
To administer it. So anyway, we purposefully did that. And then we got numerous young women whose education were truncated because of pregnancy and whose lives are completely different today. Sophia represented us about 2 or 3 times on the Ghana Business Challenge. I think, is it the Graphic Business Challenge or something? And we got to the quarterfinals each time. And one day they were getting ready to go. I got to the campus. I didn't recognize her. I just couldn't recognize her. And then she came to me, she spoke to me, and then I walked past her and she said to me, Prof, can't you recognize me? This is Sophia. And I said, my goodness, you've changed so much. her confidence, the way she articulates. I mean, Claudia the same. And I look at these two individuals and the inspiration they serve for young women who may be in their similar situations, that listen, pregnancy, having children should not prevent you from going forward with your education, from doing the things that can transform your life and transform communities and nation. Go forward. Let nothing stop you. But it should also serve as an inspiration for mothers, for parents whose children, for one reason or the other, may have gotten pregnant along the line, that do not despise them. Do not just leave them. All they need is support. All they need is for somebody to look at them and say, we still believe in you. You can make a difference. Look at Sophia today. Look at Claudia today. I mean, they speak for themselves.
Indeed, they do. Fritz is here with us, but before Fritz comes in, I mean, one can't help but notice that there are females breaking into leadership of universities. We've seen that in politics, we've seen that in business, and we're seeing that in academia. But, you know, let's say one's male-dominated space. I mean, how do you maintain balance and assert your presence, especially borrowing from your inspiration, Margaret Thatcher, who was once called, given a nickname by a Russian journalist as the Iron Lady because she was very uncompromising in her politics. Assertion is important, but in a male-dominated space, how do you navigate the egos and the machismo that would be prevalent in that space?
Thank you very much. I think that one of the things is for we as women to understand that we are not inferior. We are who we are. We are unique, and we have our own place in this life. We may not be the same as men. And when I say that from a biological perspective. Men are who they are, and women are who we are. The distinction is clear. However, we are not inferior. It is the first thing. We need to believe in ourselves. But I learned one thing from my parents. My father taught me that if you want to lead from behind or the sides, ask questions. So many times you would get people to do or think the way you want them to when you ask questions. And so I learned to use questions in a male-dominated environment. They say, stick to the issues, no problem. But I would ask a question. I would ask questions that would make you think. And as you think about the answer and you feel you own it, when I get the results I'm looking for, somehow I have learned.
Fantastic. It's good that you have been able to lead and be able to assert yourself in a predominantly male-dominated environment. I want us to talk about your feats of, building the graduate school at UPSA from ground up. There were many who said that this was one single lady that poured her heart into the graduate school. How were you able to do that? Would you say it was a soft bed of roses, or there were some challenges you had to navigate?
Absolutely. There were a number of challenges because when I went to UPSA, I was the first coordinator of research. And then along the line, as usual, I did the proposal for the establishment of the graduate school. When the graduate school started, it was tough because you needed to pull the resources, the implements together, particularly people. And you needed people with terminal qualifications, with doctorate, people who are professors. And we didn't have enough of them at the time in the university. A graduate school is not just about teaching and learning. It should be a hotbed of research. And so we needed to promote research. And the research culture in the university at the time was still growing, because it has evolved from a professional institute. At the time we hadn't even become a university. And so you could see that evolving from a purely professional institute to now an academic institution, research wasn't that strong. So again, I established the business journal, the Journal of Business Research, which became an index journal. And people would want to publish in it. If your articles do not meet the standards, of course, the committee would not allow it to be published. And this was the key to becoming senior lecturers, to be able to kind of teach in the graduate school, as it were. And so you could imagine that there would be a lot of challenge, But I don't know what kept me going. Maybe the passion.
Right.
And maybe also it was the assemble of young, dynamic minds around me to support the administrative machinery of the graduate school, so that strategically I can be able to work out what ought to be worked out,
right.
With all the people. And I wanted excellence. I wanted the graduate school to be not just a local march. I wanted it to be a graduate school with international recognition.
Right.
And so you would step on toes, because if I believe that you don't represent or resonate with the core values and principles that we aspired to build at the graduate school, you would not be a part.
It must be a very tough environment trying to enforce rules like that and principles and values. Over the years, would you say that what you envisioned the graduate school to be able to measure up with? You talk extensively about excellence and all of that. Would you say that you've been able to meet that mark? The graduate school had been able to meet or measure up to that mark?
Along the line, I can't remember, maybe in 2013 or 2014, there was an Imani publication about the most influential leader. And when you read that article, it was all about the contributions of the graduate school. The graduate school in UPSA was the fastest growing in the university. We started, the university had about 4 programs. And at the time that I was handing over, I think the graduate school had over 6 or 7 unique programs. The graduate school became the first, not just the first in Ghana, but the first in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, to attain that American gold label as accredited by the Accreditation Council of Business Schools and Programs of the US, the ACBSP, making our qualifications almost a par with American qualifications. So if you took our certificate and went to America, because of that single label, ACBSP accredited, it is considered an American qualification. This is the power. This is the value. And the lessons we learned from there. I mean, I was named by ACBSP as the ambassador of ACBSP in Africa just because of the graduate school. And so that speaks for itself. And I'm proud. Eventually, I mean, it cascaded to the university. And today, the whole university is ACBSP accredited, making the qualifications of UPSA American, equally American qualifications.
Nhyira.
Well, it's. I'm just listening and I'm just totally blown away. And I hate moments like this because sadly we've come to the end of the amount of time that we've had so much to talk about, and there's yet a lot more that I would like to talk about. But maybe just one final question, which has to do with how have you been successful at balancing the pressures of your big aspirations and the plethora of things that you busy yourself with and your domestic life?
I think that firstly, I would like to thank God for the opportunity of giving me a very supportive family and supportive team to work with. My husband has been exceptionally supportive, Professor Joshua Alabi, and I like to say a big thank you to him. He's always pushing me, hey, you've got to do this. Even when sometimes I feel, okay, I'm a little bit down, he keeps pushing me and encouraging me. My children have been very understanding, and by God's grace, Naomi and Joshua, I like to say thank you to them also. My team, Dr. Monkaila, Michael, Johnny, all the people who work with me and still work with me, they keep me going because I couldn't have done it alone. There are times I'll call them 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I send work to them. They don't say no, so they keep going. And that allows me to also have some time for home and being a wife and being a mother and doing my garden.
All right.
Doing my garden. But of course, all of it comes together because you have supportive people who understand. It's all about people.
Indeed.
It's all about quality relationships.
Great.
Yeah.
We're grateful to you, Professor Goski Alabi, for joining us on Women Mean Business.
Yes. But I like to take the opportunity to invite all of you and anyone who will be listening and want to have higher education than what they have now. Accra Metropolitan University is a gold standard when it comes to flexibility.
Okay.
We have doctoral programs, we have doctor, PhD in leadership and sustainable governance. We have in PhD in finance and accounting. We have MSc energy management and a host of master's degrees, development economics, sustainable development, all of these are MScs. And so we invite people who want to do their PhDs, look no further. Accra Metropolitan University is open to receive you.
Great. Well, from chemistry labs to lecture halls, from policy tables to international stages, Professor Goski Alabi, you've proven that when education meets vision, impact becomes inevitable. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you too.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.